Friends, welcome to another edition of Political Points Magazine. Okay, as we get this party started here. Okay, now you are watching Political Point Magazine, where the right is right and the left is always on the wrong side of history. Why? Because political minds want to know. So enjoy a conservative point of view. And let's talk pea soup. With tonight's top stories. Well, tonight, my friends, we are talking about an issue that's dominating the news today. That is the first GOP presidential debates. Yes, we will talk about all of that and the best for the country now. So tonight, my friends, I am your host, William Mitra. Alright, my friends, yes. Okay, welcome to another episode of Political Point Now. And so the debates, the first GOP debates were last Thursday, last week, and guess what? They were on Fox News, and guess what? It was a record-breaking viewing. Okay, now somehow I am having problems with the mic here. Okay, so here we go. Now, so anyhow, it was 24 million views. Okay, and so what we're gonna do here, I'm gonna show. Okay, so the first. It was there was a debate at 5 o'clock on Thursday, and there was a debate at 9. Okay, the first debate, which was 5 o'clock, was the bottom tier. Okay, and so that was with Jim Gilmore, former governor of Virginia, and then Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, Bobby Jindal, governor of Louisiana, Texas governor, former Texas governor Rick Perry, former Pennsylvania senator Rick Santorum. I've spoke a lot about him, and former Hewlett-Packard CEO, executive Carly Fiorina, and former New York governor George Pataki. Okay, that was the first debate. Okay, and then the second debate, the primetime one, was the top 10. Okay, in which we had New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, renowned world neurosurgeon Ben Carson, And wait, yeah, and Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, and then of course in the middle, who's the front runner, Donald Trump. Then we had Jeb Bush, Mike Huckabee, Jeb Bush, former governor of Florida, Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, Ohio Governor John Kasich, and Ohio Governor John Kasich. Okay, now those were the top 10. Okay, and that was the second debate. Okay, now, and by the way, these first debates were hosted in the lovely Buckeye state of Ohio. Okay, and so that is the lineup here. All right, and so that is. So what I'm going to do here first, okay, I'm going to show some of the debates here. Okay, the first debate here.
No Republican wins the White House unless you win here in the Buckeye State. Well, here in the Buckeye State, the governor, John Kasich, took the federal money for Medicaid expansion under Obamacare. And Governor Jindal in Louisiana, you passed on those tax dollars. Why do you think Governor Kasich got it wrong here?
Well, this goes to the question you were just asking. Look, under President Obama and Secretary Clinton, they're working hard to change the American dream into the European nightmare. They do celebrate more dependence on the government. Give Bernie Sanders credit. At least he's honest enough to call himself a socialist. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, they're no better. If we were to expand Medicaid, for every uninsured person we would cover in Louisiana, we'd kick more than one person out of private insurance or remove their opportunity to get private insurance. We're going to have too many people in the cart rather than pulling the cart. This isn't free money. I know some people like to say, well, this is free money. We pay federal taxes. We are borrowing money from China today. Yesterday, the president stunningly admitted this. He said, we don't have leverage with China to get a better deal on Iran because we need them to lend us money to continue operating our government. The President of the United States admitting that he's weakening our government's position, our foreign policy standing, because he can't control spending in D.C. There is a better way to provide health care. The Oregon study showed this. Simply expanding Medicaid does not improve health care outcomes. In Louisiana, instead, we're helping people getting better paying jobs so they can provide for their own health.
So Governor Kasich was wrong, just to be clear.
I don't think anybody should be expanding Medicaid. I think it's a mistake to create new and more expensive entitlement programs when we can't afford the ones we've got today. We've got to stop this culture of government dependence.
I didn't hear an answer regarding Governor Kasich, but for now I'll go to Governor Pataki. Yes or no?
I'll say this. I don't think anybody should expand Medicaid. I think it was a mistake to expand Medicaid everywhere in Ohio and across the country.
Governor Pataki, three-term governor of New York. Is he right? Governor Jindal?
I think he is right. I don't think you expand entitlements when so many people are dependent on government and when the money the federal government is offering is going to be taken away from you after just a couple of years. But getting back to Martha's question about how we end dependency, do we have to have a cultural change? The answer is no. And I know this because when I ran for governor of New York, 1 in 11 of every man, woman, and child in the state of New York was on welfare. On welfare. Think about that. And people said you can't win, you can't change the culture. But I knew that good people who wanted to be a part of the American dream had become trapped in dependency because the federal government and the state government had made it in their economic interest not to take a job because the benefits if they didn't work were better. I changed that. We put in place mandatory workfare, but we allowed people to keep health care. We put in place child care support.
Would you have expanded Obamacare in the state of New York had you been governor at that time?
No, it should be repealed. And by the way, when I left, there were over 1 million fewer people on welfare in New York State than when I took office.
Okay.
Replacing dependency with opportunity.
Thank you, Governor Pataki. In a moment here, we'll talk to the candidates about an issue today on Planned Parenthood and also the U.S. Supreme Court. That's all next here in Cleveland.
Okay, well, that's part of the first debate. I want to show more because Carly Fiorina. I want people to take a serious look at Carly Fiorina because she definitely had the upper edge on in this debate, because now it's very very cool and interesting. I like a lot of what Carly Fiorina had to say, and so everything in here. All right, so pay attention to this. All right, because this first debate, because now before the debates, people were talking about the top 10, because of Donald Trump and whatnot. Okay, but it all is centered around, okay, what a lot of this. And in fact, now I want to get into that, because with a lot of there was a lot riding on this. All right, and so, but Carly Fiorina now, and I want people to take a serious look at what Carly Fiorina did. All right, but now, and what Carly Fiorina did and said. All right, because this all is. Okay, this all comes at a point where we get in all of this. But here is more of this debate here. Okay, but Carly Fiorina had the upper edge, and I think she actually won this debate here. Okay, so here's more of that debate.
Those domestic policies and those foreign policies, Americans are going to see that I'm ready to be that individual.
Thank you, Governor.
Now we go to Carly Fiorina. Carly, you were CEO of Hewlett-Packard. You ran for Senate and lost in California in 2010. This week, you said Margaret Thatcher was not content to manage a great nation in decline, and neither am I. Given your current standings in the polls, is the Iron Lady comparison a stretch?
Well, I would begin by reminding people that at this point in previous presidential elections, Jimmy Carter couldn't win, Ronald Reagan couldn't win, Bill Clinton couldn't win, and neither could have Barack Obama. I started as a secretary and became ultimately the chief executive of the largest technology company in the world, almost $90 billion in over 150 countries. I know personally how extraordinary and unique this nation is. I think to be commander-in-chief in the 21st century requires someone who understands how the economy works, someone who understands how the world works and who's in it. I know more world leaders on the stage today than anyone running, with the possible exception of Hillary Clinton. Understands bureaucracies, how to cut them down to size and hold them accountable, and understands technology, which is a tool, but it's also a weapon that's being used against us. Most importantly, I think I understand leadership, which sometimes requires a tough call and a tough time. But mostly, the highest calling of leadership is to challenge the status quo and unlock the potential of others. We need a leader who will lead the resurgence of this great nation and unlock its potential once again.
Thank you.
Senator Santorum, you won the Iowa caucus 4 years ago in 10 other states, but you failed to beat Mitt Romney for the nomination. And no one here tonight is going to question your conviction or for your love for country. But has your moment passed, Senator?
I would say the message that got us the win in Iowa and 10 other states against pretty overwhelming odds is the message that's going to deliver us in this election. We didn't start out 4 years ago at the top of the heap. We were behind where we were today. But we stuck to our message. We stuck to the fact that Americans are tired of Washington corporate interests and Democrats who are interested in just politics and power. And they're looking for someone who's going to fight for them, looking for someone who's going to grow the manufacturing sector of our economy. So those 74% of Americans who don't have a college degree or have a chance to rise again, someone who's going to stand up and be very clear with our enemies, the lines they're going to draw, and stand with them. I've got a track record. The reason I did so well last time is not just because of the vision. It's because I have a track record in Washington, D.C. of getting things done. Iran sanctions. The Iran sanctions that brought them to the table, those are sanctions that we put in place when I was in the United States Senate, and a whole host of other things that put me
in a position of saying, I only have a great vision, but I can govern effectively in Washington.
Thank you, Senator.
Governor Jindal, you're one of 2 sitting governors on the stage tonight, but your approval numbers at home are in the mid-30s at this point. In a recent poll that showed you in a head-to-head against Hillary Clinton in Louisiana, she beat you by several points. So if the people of Louisiana are not satisfied, what makes you think that the people of this nation would be?
Thank you all for having us. I won 2 record elections. Last time I was elected governor, won a record margin in my state. Martha, we got a lot of politicians that will kiss babies, cut ribbons, do whatever it takes to be popular. That's not why I ran for office. I ran for office to make the generational changes in Louisiana. We've cut 26% of our budget. We have 30,000 fewer state bureaucrats than the day I took office. I don't think anybody has cut that much government anywhere at any time. As a result, 8 credit upgrades. As a result, a top 10 state for private sector job creation. And we fought for statewide school choice, where the dollars follow the child instead of the child following the dollars. We've been the most pro-life state 6 years in a row. My point is this. I won 2 landslide elections. I made big changes. I think our country is tired of the politicians who simply read the polls and fail to lead. Both Democrats and Republicans have gotten us in the mess we're in, $18 trillion of debt, a bad deal with Iran. We're not staying with Israel. I think the American people are looking for real leadership. That's what I've done in Louisiana. That's what I'll do for America.
Senator Lindsey Graham, you worked with Democrats and President Obama when it came to climate change, something you know is extremely unpopular with conservative Republicans. How can they trust you based on that record?
You can trust me to do the following, that when I get on the stage with Hillary Clinton, we won't be debating about the science, we'll be debating about the solutions. In her world, cap and trade will dominate, that we will destroy the economy in the name of helping in the environment. In my world, we'll focus on energy independence and a clean environment. When it comes to fossil fuels, we're going to find more here and use less. Over time, we're going to become energy independent. I am tired of sending $300 billion overseas to buy oil from people who hate our guts. The choice between a weak economy and a strong environment is a false choice. That is not the choice I offer America. A healthy environment, a strong economy, and an energy independent America. That would be the purpose of my presidency, is break this stranglehold that people enjoy on fossil fuels who hate our guts.
Thank you, Senator.
Governor Pataki, 4 years ago this month, you called it quits in a race for the presidency in 2012, but now you're back. Mitt Romney declined to run this time because he believed that the party needed new blood. Does he have a point?
I think he needs somebody who hasn't been a career politician and who's been out of office for a while. I think the last 8 years in the private sector have allowed me to see government from the outside, and I think that is a positive thing. Yes, I thought about running 4 years ago. I was ready to lead, but I wasn't ready to run. But I look at this country today, and I look at how divided we are. I look at how politicians are always posturing and issuing sound bites, but never solving problems. And what I did in New York was bring people together, an overwhelmingly Democratic state. But I was able to get Democrats to support the most conservative, sweeping policy changes in any state in America. And when I look at Washington today, we need to bring us together. We need to solve problems. We need to rebuild our military so we can stand up to radical Islam. We need to get our economy growing much faster by throwing out the corrupt tax code and lowering the rates. We have to end crony capitalism in Washington, where the lobbyists and the powerful can get tax breaks and tax credits, and the American people don't get laws in their interest. I can do that. And I can do it regardless of what the makeup of Congress is, because I did it in New York State. So we need new leadership. Yes, I will be that new leader.
Thank you, Governor.
From one side of the stage, the other, Governor Jim Gilmore. You were the last person on stage to declare your candidacy. You ran for the White House once and lost. You ran for the Senate one time and lost. You haven't held public office in 13 years. Similar question. Is it time for new blood?
I think the times are different now. I think the times are much more serious. Because of the Obama-Clinton policies, the United States is moving further and further into a decline. I want to reverse that decline. That's why I've entered this race. And I think I have the experience to do it. Former elected prosecutor, attorney general, governor. I was elected to all of those offices. A person who, in fact, has a long experience in foreign policy issues, which is different from many of the other governors who are and prospective governors who are running. I was an Army intelligence agent and a veteran during the Cold War assigned to West Germany. I was the chairman of the National Commission on Homeland Security and Terrorism for the United States for 5 years. I was a person who has dealt extensively with these Homeland Security issues. I was the governor during the 9/11 attack. I understand both of these issues, how to build the economy, and doing that as a governor who built jobs and cut taxes, and also a governor who understands foreign policy issues, and that's why I entered this race.
Thank you, Governor.
All right, everybody, now to the elephant that is not in the room tonight.
Oh, yeah, this is the question that I that I like. Okay, now let me just get that because this question is really important. Okay, now they asked about Donald Trump, which wasn't in the first debate. He was in the second debate, but this is the interesting question here. Okay.
All right, everybody, now to the elephant that is not in the room tonight, Donald Trump. Let's take a look at this graphic that shows the huge amount of political chatter that he is driving on Facebook right now. Some of it good, probably, some of it bad. But he is dominating this conversation. Governor Perry, you two have been going at it. But given the large disparity in your poll numbers, he seems to be getting the better of you.
Well, when you look at the celebrity of Donald Trump, then I think that says a lot about it. One thing I like to remind people is back in 2007, Rudy Giuliani was leading the polls for almost a year. I'll suggest a part of that was his celebrity. Fred Thompson was the other one, a man who had spent a lot of time on that screen. I've had my issues with Donald Trump. I talked about Donald Trump from the standpoint of being an individual who was using his celebrity rather than his conservatism. How can you run for the Republican nomination and be for single-payer health care? I mean, I ask that with all due respect. And nobody on either one of these stages has done more than I've done and the people of the state of Texas to deal with securing that border. We sent our Texas Ranger recon teams. We sent our Parks and Wildlife wardens. I deployed the National Guard. After I stood on the ramp in Dallas, Texas, and looked the President of the United States in the eye and said, Mr. President, if you won't secure the border, Texas will. And that's exactly what we did. We need a president that doesn't just talk a game, but a president that's got real results.
All right, I want to ask that same question because it's true really of all of you on this stage that, like it or not, Donald Trump there's a huge disparity between the poll numbers that you have and the poll numbers that he has. Given also the fact that Rudy Giuliani said he thought that there may be some Reagan qualities to Donald Trump. So Carly Fiorina, is he getting the better of you?
Well, I don't know. I didn't get a phone call from Bill Clinton before I jumped in the race. Did any of you get a phone call from Bill Clinton? I didn't. Maybe it's because I hadn't given money to the foundation or donated to his wife's Senate campaign. Here's the thing that I would ask Donald Trump in all seriousness. He is the party's front runner right now, and good for him. I think he's tapped into an anger that people feel. They're sick of politics as usual. You know, whatever your issue, your cause, the festering problem you hoped would be resolved, the political class has failed you. That's just a fact, and that's what Donald Trump taps into. I would also just say this, since he has changed his mind on amnesty, on health care, and on abortion, I would just ask what are the principles by which he will govern.
Thank you.
This Saturday, August 8th, 2 days from now, marks 1 year since the strikes began against ISIS in Iraq and followed in Syria 1 month later. This week, a leading general in the U.S. Marine Corps says 1 year later, that fight is at a stalemate. Governor Jindal, give me one example how your fight against ISIS would be different over there.
Well, to start with, unlike President Obama, I'll actually name the enemy that we confront. We've got a president who cannot bring himself to say the words radical Islamic terrorism. Now, Bill, he loves to criticize America, apologize for us, criticize medieval Christians. How can we beat an enemy if our commander-in-chief doesn't have the moral honesty and clarity to say that Islam has a problem and that problem is radical Islam? to say they've got to condemn not just generic acts of violence, but the individual murderers who are committing these acts of violence. We've got a president instead who says we're going to change hearts and minds. Well, you know what? Sometimes you win a war by killing murderous, evil terrorists. We're going to take the political handcuffs off the military. We will arm and train the Kurds. We will work with our Sunni allies. They know we will be committed to victory. We had this failed red line with Assad, and it discouraged folks that want to help us on the ground. Finally, we'll take off the political handcuffs. We'll go to the Congress. This president has gone to Congress and said, give me a 3-year deadline. Give me a ban on ground troops. I'm going to go to the commanders and say, give me a plan to win. You can't send your troops into harm's way unless you give them every opportunity to be successful.
Yeah, and the senator to your right has called for 20,000 American troops in Syria and Iraq so far today, Senator Graham, and I'll give this question to you. Why should the American people, after 2 wars in Iraq, sacrifice yet again on a 3rd war?
If we don't stop them over there, they are coming here just as sure as I stand here in front of you. One thing I want to be clear about tonight. If you're running for President of the United States and you don't understand that we need more American ground forces in Iraq and that America has to be part of a regional ground force that will go into Syria and destroy ISIL in Syria, then you're not ready to be Commander-in-Chief and you're not serious about destroying ISIL. According to the generals that I know and trust, this air campaign will not destroy ISIL. We need a ground force in Iraq and Syria, and America has to be part of that ground force. According to the FBI and the Director of National Intelligence, Syria is becoming a perfect platform to strike our nation. I've got a very simple strategy as your president against ISIL. Whatever it takes, as long as it takes, to defeat them.
Senator, thank you.
All right, let's get to our first commercial break. There is...
Yeah. All right, now, anyhow, but they covered a lot in that first debate. I want to get into the some more of that, okay? Because it's quite interesting. The soundbite that a lot of people got out of that, but now, you know, they touched on a lot of issues here, like for example, Donald Trump and national security, the economy. All right, all basic issues here. All right, and we definitely want to get into a lot of those, but I want to show some more of this first debate, and then get into the second debate. Okay, but now there is, but now I want to get into more of this first debate. All right, because now there was a question about Iran and the Iran deal. Okay, and it's quite the interesting one, but here it is. Okay, now, all right. So here is a basic question now that was asked, and you know they teamed up with Facebook for some of their questions.
From becoming nuclearized. So let's open this discussion about Iran with this question that comes to Governor Perry. Governor Perry, here's the question for you. Critics of the Iran deal say that it puts America on the same side as the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, of Hamas, of Hezbollah, of the backers of those groups, and of people who chant death to America in the street, that this deal puts us on that side of the equation. But our traditional Middle East allies, led by Saudi Arabia, have also funneled support to Islamic radical groups who want to kill Americans. So which side do you believe we should be on?
We need to be on the side that keeps Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. That's the side we need to be on, and that's the side of the bulk of the Middle East. And we need to have some coalitions in that part of the world to go after ISIS, but we also need to send a clear message. And hopefully, you know, Senator Graham, I know where he's going to be on this, but we use Congress, and we use Congress to cut this funding. One of the great challenges that we have, $150 billion is fixing to go to a country that killed our Marines in Lebanon that used their weapons to kill our young men in Iran. And the idea that this negotiation, I will tell you one thing, I would a whole lot rather had Carly Fiorina over there doing our negotiation than John Kerry. Maybe we would have gotten a deal where we didn't give everything away. But the issue for us is to have a Congress that stands up and says not only no, but hell no to this money going to a regime that is going to use it for terror. Susan Rice has said that, and we need to stand up and strongly and clearly tell the Ayatollah that whoever the next president of the United States is going to be, and I'll promise you, if it's me, the first thing that I will do is tear up that agreement with Iran.
All right. I want to go to Carly Fiorina on this, but I want to ask you some of what I just asked to Governor Perry. The issue is that the allies that we are with sometimes have groups within them that funnel money to terrorists as well. This is a complicated situation. Are you okay with us being on their side?
Yep, sometimes it's a complicated situation, but some things are black and white. On day one in the Oval Office, I would make 2 phone calls. The first one would be to my good friend Bibi Netanyahu to reassure him we will stand with the State of Israel. The second will be to the Supreme Leader of Iran. He might not take my phone call, but he would get the message, and the message is this. Until you open every nuclear and every military facility to full, open, anytime, anywhere, for real, inspections, we are going to make it as difficult as possible for you to move money around the global financial system. I hope Congress says no to this deal, but realistically, even if they do, the money is flowing. China and Russia have never been on our side of the table. The Europeans have moved on. We have to stop the money flow. And by the way, as important as those 2 phone calls are, they are also very important because they say this: America is back in the leadership business. And when America does not lead, the world is a dangerous and a tragic place. This is a bad deal. Obama broke every rule of negotiation. Yes, our allies are not perfect, but Iran is at the heart of most of the evil that is going on through their proxies.
Very, very briefly, would you help our allies in that region to get nuclear weapons if Iran has them?
Let me tell you what I would do immediately. Day 2 in the Oval Office, I would hold a Camp David summit with our Arab allies, not to talk them into this lousy deal with Iran, but to say to them, what is it that you need to defeat ISIL? You know, Obama has presented the American people with a false choice every time. It's what I've done or not done, or it's war. It is a false choice. King Abdullah of Jordan, a man I've known for a long time, has been asking for bombs and materiel. We have not provided them. He has gone to China. The Kurds have been asking us to arm them for 3 years. We haven't done so. The Egyptians have asked us to share intelligence. We're not doing it. We have Arab allies. They are not perfect. I know every one. But they need to see leadership, support, and resolve from the United States of America, and we can help them defeat ISIS.
Next question on the U.S. Supreme Court. It's been 42 years, Senator Santorum, since Roe versus Wade, and many consider it a case of settled law. Recently, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on same-sex marriage. Is that now settled law in America today?
It is not any more than Dred Scott was settled law to Abraham Lincoln, who in his first inaugural address said, it won't stand. And they went ahead and passed laws in direct contravention to a rogue Supreme Court. This is a rogue Supreme Court decision. Just like Justice Roberts said, there is no constitutional basis for the Supreme Court's decision. And I know something about this. One of the times the Supreme Court spoke that I thought they were acting outside of their authority was in a partial birth abortion case. You know, these Planned Parenthood tapes, what they're showing are partial birth abortions. Abortions being done where the baby's being delivered first to preserve those organs, and then they crush the skull. Well, the Supreme Court found a bill that I was the author of unconstitutional. What did I do? I didn't stop. I didn't say, oh, well, we lost. It's the law of the land. We worked together, the House and Senate, under my leadership, and we passed a bill, and we said, Supreme Court, you're wrong. We're a co-equal branch of the government. We have every right to be able to stand up and say what is constitutional. We passed a bill, bipartisan support, and the Supreme Court, they sided with us. Sometimes it just takes someone to lead and stand up to the court.
All right, Senator, thank you. To Governor Gilmore, for years, presidential candidates have not said they would have a litmus test for justices nominated to the Supreme Court. Recently, Hillary Clinton broke that precedent. She said she would apply that on the case of Citizens United, which deals with campaign finance laws in America today. Is it time for conservatives to impose a litmus test on abortion?
Well, as you know, I'm a former elected prosecutor, a former elected attorney general, trained at the University of Virginia in constitutional law. And I don't believe in litmus tests except this. I believe we should be appointing Supreme Court justices who will follow the law and not try to make the law. Now, the challenge we're seeing today is that the Supreme Court is being converted into some type of political body. They have to have some legal basis and precedence for being able to follow the law instead of making the law up. And my goal is, in appointing Supreme Court justices, would be to appoint justices who would follow the law. Bill, I want to say one more thing about
no litmus test.
Not on that, no. But let me say one more thing. I want to, before my time runs out, I want to get back to this issue of ISIS versus Iran. It is Iran that's the expansionist power. ISIL is trying to create themselves into a new state. Our job has to be as the conflict between the two. I have proposed there be a Middle East NATO so that we can combine our allies there to stand up to Iranian expansion and at the same time join together to begin to stop in this ISIL thing before it becomes an actual state.
Thank you, Governor.
Now, before I get to the second debate, I want to mention that Carly Fiorina knows her stuff. She is right on, and in fact, now the other thing that made me more amazed at Carly Fiorina was her closing statements in here. But here it is. Okay.
Hillary Clinton lies about Benghazi. She lies about emails. She is still defending Planned Parenthood, and she is still her party's front runner. 2016 is going to be a fight between conservatism and a Democrat Party that is undermining the very character of this nation. We need a nominee who is going to throw every punch, not pull punches, and someone who cannot stumble before he even gets into the ring. I am not a member of the political class. I am a conservative. I can win this job. I can do this job. I need your help. I need your support. I will, with your help and support, lead the resurgence of this great nation.
Now, that, my friends, she looked very presidential in there. In fact, now, she got on the nerve of Chris Matthews, okay? And my friends, I want to show you this clip because, you know, and Chris Matthews, then, okay, the Clinton News Network, okay, the very liberal news network, all right? But I want to show you that clip, okay, because she got on the nerve of Chris Matthews. Okay, on that. Okay, friends, check this out. Okay, and
She did it. I didn't say about her. Not
Well, once you call a person, once you say a person,
excuse me. Secondly, I will debate her
Go
on
through
the
your
facts
list of where she's
and
lied.
nature. Benghazi, emails, and server. I will debate her on the issues facing this nation. I will debate her on her positions. I will ask her, for example, how she can possibly continue to defend Planned Parenthood. I will ask her why she continues to worse and worse.
okay, well, actually, that was Chris Matthews from MSNBC, and that still is liberal as well. But anyhow, Carly Fiorina, oh my gosh, Carly Fiorina tames the press, and you see, you know, she named off her list of what Hillary lied about, and you know, it was Benghazi, her emails, her server, you know, and oh my gosh, she tamed the press. Carly Fiorina tamed the press. Oh my gosh. So now, my friends, on to the second debate. Okay. And we want to get into this here. But on to the second debate. And I do want to get into all of this because but onto the second debate, the primetime debate, okay, which had the top 10, okay, and may I just say about all of this. That that our the I was very disappointed with Donald Trump in this debate. Okay, because and his performance, he just seemed very snobby. All right, but if you take a look, okay, we will get into the second debate.
Gentlemen, we know how much you love hand-raising questions. So we promise this is the only one tonight. The only one. Is there anyone on stage, and can I see hands, who is unwilling tonight to pledge your support to the eventual nominee of the Republican Party and pledge to not run an independent campaign against that person? Again, we're looking for you to raise your hand now. Raise your hand now if you won't make that pledge tonight. Mr. Trump. So, Mr. Trump.
Notice the boos in there. Okay, Trump was the only one raising his hand. All right, and now I want you to take a look at this exchange. Okay, when Trump explains, and then Rand Paul jumps in. All right.
You're standing on a Republican primary debate.
I fully understand.
The place where the RNC will give the nominee the nod.
I fully understand.
And that experts say an independent run would almost certainly hand the race over to Democrats and likely another Clinton. You can't say tonight that you can make that pledge.
I cannot say. I have to respect the person that if it's not me, the person that wins. If I do win and I'm leading by quite a bit, that's what I want to do. I can totally make that pledge. If I'm the nominee, I will pledge I will not run as an independent. But and I am discussing it with everybody, but I'm talking about a lot of leverage. We want to win, and we will win. But I want to win as the Republican. I want to run as the Republican nominee.
So tonight you can't say if another one of these...
This is what's wrong. I mean, This is what's wrong. He buys and sells politicians of all stripes. He's already,
Dr. Paul.
hey, look, he's already hedging his bet on the Clintons, okay? So if he doesn't run as a Republican, maybe he supports Clinton or maybe runs as an independent.
Okay.
But I'd say that he's already hedging his bets because he's used to buying politicians.
Well, I've given him plenty of money.
Just to be clear, you can't make it. We're going to move on. You're not going to make the pledge tonight.
I will not make the pledge at this time.
Okay. All right.
That's what.
Now I have to say though that I was very disappointed in Trump's performance. All right, I was more impressed with Rubio, Carson, Ted Cruz, and Rand Paul.
Our first round of questions is on the subject of electability in the general election. And we start tonight with you, Dr. Carson. You are a successful neurosurgeon, but you admit that you have had to study up when it comes to foreign policy, saying there's a lot to learn. Your critics say that your inexperience shows. You suggested that the Baltic states are not a part of NATO, and just months ago you were unfamiliar with the major political parties and government in Israel. And domestically, you thought Alan Greenspan had been Treasury Secretary instead of Federal Reserve Chair. Aren't these basic mistakes? And don't they raise legitimate questions about whether you are ready to be president?
Well, I could take issue with all of those things, but we don't have time. But I will say we have a debate here tonight, and we will have an opportunity to explore those areas. And I'm looking very much forward to demonstrating that, in fact, the thing that is probably most important is having a brain and to be able to figure things out and learn things very rapidly. So, experience comes from a large number of different arenas. And America became a great nation early on, not because it was flooded with politicians, but because it was flooded with people who understood the value of personal responsibility, hard work, creativity, innovation, and that's what will get us on the right track now as well.
Senator Rubio, when Jeb Bush announced his candidacy for presidency, he said this: There's no passing off responsibility when you're a governor, no blending into the legislative crowd. Could you please address Governor Bush across the stage here and explain to him why you, someone who has never held executive office, are better prepared to be president than he is, a man who you say did a great job running your state of Florida for 8 years?
Well, thank you for the question, Chris, and it's great to be here tonight. Let me begin by saying this. I'm not new to the political process. I was making a contribution as the Speaker of the third largest and most diverse state in the country well before I even got into the Senate. I would add to that this election cannot be a resume competition. It's important to be qualified, but if this election is a resume competition, then Hillary Clinton's going to be the next president, because she's been in office and in government longer than anybody else running here tonight. Here's what this election better be about. This election better be about the future, not the past. It better be about the issues our nation and the world is facing today, not simply the issues we once faced. This country is facing an economy that has been radically transformed. You know, the largest retailer in the country, in the world today, Amazon, doesn't even own a single store, and these changes have been disruptive. They have changed people's lives. The jobs that once sustained our middle class, they either don't pay enough or they are gone, and we need someone that understands that as our nominee. If I'm our nominee, how is Hillary Clinton going to lecture me about living paycheck to paycheck? I was raised paycheck to paycheck. How is she going to lecture me? How is she going to lecture me about student loans? I owed over $100,000 just 4 years ago. If I'm our nominee, we will be the party of the future.
Governor Bush, you have insisted that you're your own man. You say you have a life experience uniquely your own, not your father's, not your brother's. But there are several opponents on this stage who get big applause lines in early voting states with this line. Quote, the last thing the country needs is another Bush in the Oval Office. So do you understand the real concern in this country about dynastic politics?
Absolutely I do. And I'm going to run hard, run with heart, and run to win. I'm going to have to earn this. Maybe the bar is even higher for me. That's fine. I've got a record in Florida. I'm proud of my dad, and I'm certainly proud of my brother. In Florida, they call me Jeb because I earned it. I cut taxes every year, totaling $19 billion. We balanced every budget. We went from $1 billion of reserves to $9 billion of reserves. We were one of 2 states that went to AAA bond rating. They call me Vito Corleone because I vetoed 2,500 separate line items in the budget. I'm my own man. I govern as a conservative, and I govern effectively. And the net effect.
Okay, well, we have somebody on the line here. Okay. Actually, no, there's not. But anyway, I want to get into more of the second debate because there is lots of ground to cover here. Okay, but especially this exchange in the debates here. All right, but take a look at this. All right, now.
Governor Christie, you have said that Senator Paul's opposition to the NSA's collection of phone records has made the United States weaker and more vulnerable, even going so far as to say that he should be called before Congress to answer for it if we should be hit by another terrorist attack. Do you really believe you can assign blame to Senator Paul just for opposing the bulk collection of people's phone records in the event of a terrorist attack?
Yes, I do. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm the only person on this stage who's actually filed applications under the Patriot Act, who have gone before the the Foreign Intelligence Service Court, who has prosecuted and investigated and jailed terrorists in this country after September 11th. I was appointed U.S. Attorney by President Bush on September 10th, 2001. And the world changed enormously the next day. And it happened in my state. This is not theoretical to me. I went to the funerals. We lost friends of ours in the Trade Center that day. My own wife was 2 blocks from the Trade Center that day at her office, having gone through it that morning. When you actually have to be responsible for doing this, you can do it, and we did it for 7 years in my office, respecting civil liberties and protecting the homeland. And I will make no apologies ever for protecting the lives and the safety of the American people. We have to give more tools to our folks to be able to do that, not fewer, and then trust those people and oversee them to do it the right way. As president, that is exactly what I'll do.
Megan, may I respond?
Go ahead, sir.
I want to collect more records from terrorists, but less records from innocent Americans. The Fourth Amendment was what we fought fought the revolution over. John Adams said it was the spark that led to our war for independence. And I'm proud of standing for the Bill of Rights, and I will continue to stand for the Bill of Rights.
And Megan, that's a completely ridiculous answer. I want to collect more records from terrorists, but less records from other people. How are you supposed to know, Megan?
Use the Fourth Amendment.
How are you supposed
Use
to?
the Fourth
No, I'll tell you how you
get a warrant.
Let me tell you something.
Get a judge to sign a warrant.
Senator.
Go ahead, wait, Governor Christie, make your point.
Listen, Senator, when you're sitting in a subcommittee just blowing hot air about this, you can say things like that. When you're responsible for protecting the lives of the American people, then what you need to do is to make sure that you use the system the way it's supposed to work.
Here's the problem, Governor. You fundamentally misunderstand the Bill of Rights. Every time you did a case, you got a warrant from a judge. I'm talking about searches without warrants, indiscriminately of all Americans' records, and that's what I fought to end. I don't trust President Obama with our records. I know you gave him a big hug, and if you want to give him a big hug again, go right ahead.
Oh, man. It got a little heated in that exchange there. But there's another exchange. There's another question I want to get into here. But and this one was dedicated to Jeb Bush on there. But I do want to get to that.
Governor Bush. For days on end in this campaign, you struggled to answer a question about whether, knowing what we know now, you would have invaded Iraq.
Megan.
I remember it too. And ISIS, of course, is now thriving there. You finally said no. To the families of those who died in that war, who say they liberated a country and deposed a ruthless dictator, how do you look at them now and say your brother's war was a mistake?
Knowing what we know now, with faulty intelligence and not having security be the first priority when we invaded, it was a mistake. I wouldn't have gone in. However, for the people that did lose their lives and the families that suffered because of it, I know this full well, because as governor of the state of Florida, I called every one of them that I could find, to tell them that I was praying for them, that I cared about them, and it was really hard to do. And every one of them said that their child did not die in vain, or their wife or husband did not die in vain. And so why it was difficult for me to do it was based on that. Here's the lesson that we should take from this, which relates to this whole subject. Barack Obama became president, and he abandoned Iraq. He left, and when he left, Al-Qaeda was done for. ISIS was created because of the void that we left. And that void now exists as a caliphate the size of Indiana. To honor the people that died, we need to stop the Iran agreement for sure, because the Iranian mullahs have their blood on their hands, and we need to take out ISIS with every tool at our disposal.
Now, this is the question that I wanted to submit to the debate, but if I was able to submit my question to that, okay, this is the question that I would have asked the candidates. Hello, candidates. I am William Mitro, host of Political Point magazine, and I have a few questions for you. All right. Now, my first is on the question of Iraq. Now, back in May, Fox News asked a few GOP candidates the Iraq question.
Subject of Iraq,
Yep.
obviously very controversial. Knowing what we know now, would you have authorized the invasion?
I would have, and so would have Hillary Clinton, just to remind everybody, and so would have almost everybody that was confronted with the intelligence they got.
Now, but by asking the question the way you did, and by answering the question the way it was answered, aren't you denying the American public certain facts about the situation? Now, fact number one. In the summer of 2006, Congressman Pete Hoekstra, who was the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee at the time, and Senator Rick Santorum came out with a press release reporting that they did find chemical weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
And I are here today to say that we have found weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, chemical weapons. It's a document that was developed by our intelligence community, which for the last 2.5 months I have been pursuing, and thanks to the help of the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, was ultimately, he was able to get it in his hands, and I was able to look for and look at.
These weapons have been discovered. More weapons exist, and they state that Iraq was not a WMD-free zone.
And now, but the mainstream media did not report it, and they tried to cover it up. These were the same weapons of mass destruction that President Bush was talking about that Saddam used on his own people. Now, and then back last year in October of 2014, the New York Times had an article, a 5-page article, including the front page, detailing that we did find the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. All right. This even goes back as far as the summer of 2006. But and so, knowing what we know now, and I think Jeb Bush answered the question correctly the first time, because we did find the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but the media tried to cover it up. Okay, so my question to you is, as a candidate for president, will you make these facts known to the American public, since the mainstream media tried to cover it up? And you see, that is the question that I would ask the candidates for president. And so let's get into more of the debate. Anyhow.
Use a politician's filter. However, that is not without its downsides, in particular when it comes to women. You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account...
Thank you.
For the record, it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like the temperament of a man we should elect as president? And how will you answer the charge from Hillary Clinton, who is likely to be the Democratic nominee, that you are part of the war on women?
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either. This country is in big trouble. We don't win anymore. We lose to China. We lose to Mexico, both in trade and at the border. We lose to everybody. And frankly, what I say at times, it's fun, it's kidding, we have a good time. What I say is what I say. What I say is what I say. And honestly, Megan, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I've been very nice, though I could maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that. But you know what? We need strength, we need energy, we need quickness, and we need brain in this country to turn it around. That I can tell you right now.
Senator Cruz, your colleague, Senator Paul, right there next. A few months ago, he agrees with you on a number of issues. Do nothing to grow the party. He said you need red meat, but you don't out to minorities. You have minorities. You have a toxic relationship with GOP leaders in Congress. You even called the Republican Senate leader, Mitch McConnell, a liar recently. How can you win in 2016 when you're such a divisive figure?
Chris, I believe the American people are looking for someone to speak the truth. If you're looking for someone to go to Washington, to go along, to get along, to agree with the career politicians in both parties who get in bed with the lobbyists and special interests, then I ain't your guy. There is a reason that we have $18 trillion in debt. Because as conservatives, as Republicans, we keep winning elections. We got a Republican House, we got a Republican Senate, and we don't have leaders who honor their commitments. I will always tell the truth and do what I said I would do.
Yeah, well, now, we have to get to... hello? Oh, no, you're not on the air. Anyhow. No, but that was some of the debate. I was more impressed with Ben Carson, Ted Cruz, Mike Huckabee, and Rand Paul on that stage there. All right, but I do want to get into something more, okay? Because now, hello, you're on the air. What's on your political mind?
Republicans have no love.
That's not true. Okay. Well, thank you for your call. Okay. Now, anyhow. Okay. Now, we got to get to the last words for the night. Okay. Which now I want to fit this in here. Okay. Because now with all of this now. Okay. We had, you know, everything, but this is about the future, all right. And any of the Republicans are much better than any of the Democrats, all right. So they have the better policies, and we have the policies that work, all right. Okay, and but now I want to show this, okay?
Because I like your tie. Who do you think won the debate and why?
Well, I would say Marco Rubio won the debate, and the reason for it is because he seems so prepared and confident that it shows that he's really prepared, and he countered all the others by telling them that, no, this is how we need to do it.
I see the success of the special report right there. Who do you lost?
I definitely think that.
Sorry about that, but obviously Marco Rubio is getting the young black vote there. Okay, but that, my friends, is our show for tonight. We thank you for tuning in, and remember, vote Republican. All right, but that's our show for tonight. Follow me on Twitter at WilliamMitro2, and Catch me on YouTube. But, once again, thank you for watching Political Points. On the right, there's